You're listening to a download from the outdoorstation.co.uk.
Number 370.
Hello and welcome back to yet another scintillating podcast from the Outdoor Station with me, your host, Bob Cartwright. Now, there have been quite a few things that have been happening since my last podcast, the one with Warren and Esther, the Round the World cyclists, and I'd like to touch on some of these before we get into conversation with Trakke Bags. Trakke Bags, a new and up-and-coming name in the UK outdoor manufacturing world. More of that later. So first, I'd like to start off though with a big thank you, and that goes out to all the people who came to our first outdoor show at Backpacking Light headquarters in Malvern at the end of April 2014. We were really thrilled to have so many people there. We just didn't know who was going to come, and more importantly, we had obviously invited all the brands to come along as well, and they were asking how many people are coming. Well, we were a little bit apprehensive that there wouldn't be that many, and in the end we were totally gobsmacked to have over 500 people, and they themselves were shocked that there was a queue at the door, plus a full car park, half an hour or so before we opened, and that during the day they didn't have time to take a break. They actually really enjoyed it. We even had people arriving at 7:30 as I was putting the tents up, looking for a bacon sarnie and a coffee. Now, all the brands wanted me to pass on their appreciation, and I do mean that. They all actually said to really pass on their thanks and say how much they enjoyed chatting to you all. In particular, they all said what they enjoyed was the fact they got direct feedback with some very knowledgeable and experienced end users. And I'm not sure what some of you said, but they tell me a few of the comments have already been fed back direct to the product designers. So you never know, you could have influenced the future. It was a bit hair-raising for me, or for all of us really, at the start, frustratingly, and I'm sure most people who were there realise this, but just as we opened the doors, all the card terminals decided to go down for an hour, causing a slight bit of stress, to say the least, and a bit of a queue. So thankfully Beth and Rose did their best to keep everybody informed, and I really appreciate those who just understood the situation, and thankfully it didn't take too long to get it back up and running, but it was as I say, a little bit stressful at the time. The other unexpected change in things was the weather, really. It had been, well, the weather's been great a few days beforehand and a few days afterwards, but it was a bit of a challenge on the day with the sort of sunshine and showers and the high winds, which meant having all the brands crammed into the hall, which was warm and cosy, which was good, but I had hoped people would spread out a bit more. However, on the positive side, people got to see all the display tents tested in real-world conditions. If you did come, you know that we did free tea and coffee and drinks during the day, along with a wide selection of cakes and buns, which the family, Rose, Beth and Naomi, had furiously been baking a few days before, and I think they went down quite well from what I heard. I'm lucky not to have a sweet tooth because, honestly, I'd be the size of a house. They do make exceedingly good cakes, and if I ate them, I'd be as fat as a pig. However, we were offering the cakes in return for a small donation of your choice, which we were collecting for our chosen charity on the day, which was Mountain Rescue. Now, a tad under £170 was raised, and so we've topped that up to 200, and we're splitting it between North and South in the UK for the Mountain Rescue. So the Mountain Rescue in Scotland and the one in the UK, Wales as well. In the evening, one of our customers, Peter Milner, very kindly put on a talk at the campsite about life in the Antarctic, which we managed to catch most of after clearing up. And it was fascinating to hear about life at minus 30 degrees and what the guys do for self-made entertainment. Wonderful, wonderful pictures. So if you ever get a chance to visit a talk by Peter Milner, do make a point of going. And a big thanks to you once again, Peter. So all in all, thanks again, everybody. Brilliant effort. thanks for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you wonder what you missed and you couldn't make it, you'll find a link to the video on the Backpacking Light Outdoors show page, or of course on the Outdoors channel, the Outdoors Station YouTube channel. Okay, on to another small thank you, actually. If you visited the Outdoor Station website, you may have noticed a tab at the top entitled Advertising and Support. And there's blurb there, of course, for people interested in sponsoring or advertising or whatever. But there's also a PayPal link for those listeners, or anybody really, who wish to make a donation towards our running costs. Because as you can imagine, over 360 podcasts is an awful lot of data, and we're getting on average, I don't know, about 4,500 to 5,000 downloads approximately a day. That's an awful lot of bandwidth, and it's not cheap. But over the years, we've had a few people give us a donation, and last week I had a lovely note from Mark Hendry in County Durham. So I'd just like to read this to you, and I hope he doesn't mind. Hi Bob, I wanted to make a small donation to help with your running costs. The back catalogue of podcasts is a fantastic resource, and I look forward to each new podcast you release. Always inspiring, entertaining and interesting, no matter the subject matter. My particular favourites are the TGO Challenge, the Cape Wrath Trail and the Three Men in a Cairngorm series, which have inspired me to undertake several walks on my own in these areas recently. Sincere thanks, as I can only imagine the effort that goes into producing these podcasts, and please keep up the great work. Mark, thank you so much. That's a really nice thing to do. It's greatly appreciated, and your feedback in particular is appreciated. So I'm really glad that the podcasts are hitting a spot for you, and hopefully they will continue to do so for some time to come. Finally, talking of feedback, just a very, very brief one. I really are getting some comments from people now that they're changing their listening habits, how they listen to these podcasts, or podcasts in general, not just mine, whether they're streaming them live, because the technology now allows you to do that with your phone, or rather than downloading them and put them on your MP3 players and so on. I would be really grateful if people could perhaps, if you could take 2 minutes just to drop me a quick email and just tell me if that's something that's true, if you're listening to streamed content as opposed to downloaded. And also, if you're veering towards spending a lot more time watching the videos as well, because obviously the smart TVs and the new technology there is indicating that people are actually spending a lot more time watching that sort of content that's really of interest to them. So if you could drop me a quick email just to let me know if this was the case. I mean, we get about, every time I release a new podcast, we get between 4,000 and 5,000 downloads on that particular one within 24 hours. So we know you guys are regular listeners, and you like to top up with the stuff as we produce it. So if you could just give me an idea of where you are in the world, how you're absorbing the information, any particular area that you'd like to hear or see more of, trips, real world trips as it were, as opposed to gear reviews and that sort of thing, that would be really great. The email address is, of course, info@theoutdoorstation.co.uk, but of course you can find that on the website as well. Okay, so let's now move on to the main interview here with Alec Farmer, the founder of Trakke Bags in Glasgow. Now, it's a brand name probably unknown, I suspect, to backpackers generally, but I'm guessing the cycling community might be aware of the name, and possibly maybe the bushcrafters too. What is great to see is a new brand with products being designed and actually made in the UK. So for those of us completely new to the name, I asked Alec to start by introducing himself.
My name's Alec Farmer, and I run Trakke in Glasgow. We're an outdoor lifestyle brand making bags, backpacks, messenger bags for the outdoor lifestyle.
Now, you've come to this at a fairly early age, I understand.
I have, yeah. I'm 25, and I started Trakke in 2010, so 4 years ago now. And it's been progressing ever since, really.
So was it something that came out of a background or a family background in manufacturing or sewing or design or anything?
Sort of a mixture. I come from quite a creative family, and then I studied graphic design at the Glasgow School of Art. And while I was there, I think I got a little bit bored of sitting in front of computers all the time. So I wanted a side project to occupy me in the long summer holidays, and just got round to making bags with a friend. And one thing led to the other, and now we're here today, really.
So to describe your brand then to people who've never heard the name before, would you like to just give us the feel of the products that you produce?
We produce backpacks and messenger bags, and we try to make them beautiful and functional. So they should be functional on the hill, great for cycling, things like that, but also perfect for taking to the office, walking around the city. If you're a little bit of a fashionista, they've maybe got a slightly trendy edge to them as well.
So would you say that your products are more urban-based design products with outdoor functionality, as opposed to, obviously, listeners might be assuming that when you're making bags, we're talking about lightweight rucksacks?
No, yeah, we're certainly not making lightweight rucksacks. We design stuff, for urban lifestyle, but no, that's not true. We design stuff for outdoor lifestyles, but we're not really aiming to please the sort of performance fetishists, the people who are gram counting or looking for the best in performance. We're designing great all-round packs.
And would you place your business size at the moment in the sort of cottage industry sort of formula, or would you say you're a bit bigger than that? What sort of number of people have you got? Where are you sort of in the manufacturing world?
We're definitely a cottage industry at the moment. There's myself. I've got 2 machinists working in the workshop, and a group of other people, most of whom are friends, who come and help out time to time to give us a hand.
That's what friends are for. So if people are listening to this and obviously want to check you out as we talk, which I think they probably will do, if they looked on your website, which is trakke.co.uk, but spell it TRAKE.co.uk, you'll see what we're talking about and as the story unfolds. So you started this sort of 4 or 5 years ago. You're mid-20s now. It's a big step, isn't it, to go from doodling with ideas to actually, the whole commercial process. So how did you get started?
Well, we've grown in a very organic way. When we started out, we were students at university and basically had no money at all. So we used to head out at the weekends on our bikes and cycle around all the industrial estates in Glasgow and basically steal materials from skips that were unwanted or discarded and things like that. We used to cut up old sofas and suitcases and sort of harvest the buckles and usable fabrics off them and turn them into bags, which we used to sell sort of in a local market in the East End of Glasgow. And as we did that, we began to gather sort of a little following of people who liked what we were doing. And it was clear that maybe it had some legs. So began to develop the product and started making things out of new materials as well, things like cordura. But in the end, really, I got to the point where I was really passionate about manufacturing in the UK, but I wanted to make a product that I could really be proud of in the UK as well. And I didn't really feel like those synthesized fabrics and things were really the right materials to be using. So I really changed the entire palette of materials and started using British-made fabrics, things like waxed cotton, a bit of Harris tweed, using stainless steel buckles and high-quality webbing that's all made in the UK. It's
an interesting journey where you've got to at the moment then. So take us through your thought process as you went from this sort of recycled ethos, this recycled experience you had, because obviously it was a shoestring, presumably, doing it on a sewing machine at home. How did you get the next step? How did you actually start getting more commercial? Was it, were you just lucky to have a lot of demand for the products?
Not really. I think, to be honest, I'm in no way a businessman. I'm a trained graphic designer, and so really I had no idea what I was doing. And to a large extent, still don't. But I kind of see that as a good thing because I've come into the industry maybe as a bit of an outsider, and I'm just slowly trying, sort of at every step, we try and develop a little bit more. So as we get a little bit more money, we use better materials, and as we get a bit more knowledge, we can refine the way we sell. So I suppose it's really happened very slowly and very organically. And I think if you were a businessman looking into our business, we maybe haven't taken all the steps that you would expect. It's been kind of very organic in that sense. Really, I've just been focused on just trying to develop continuously. So I'm always focusing on trying to improve our designs, trying to improve our websites, improve our customer service. And, as I learn new things and as I get advice from different people, I'm able to do that slowly but surely.
Yes, I mean, I think I can agree with you. Running a business these days, I don't think people realise just how much time is involved in all the administration, as you say, forward thinking and design and preparation and planning. But at the bottom line is you still need to make product to sell it, to keep everything else, all the other wheels oiled and going round. Absolutely. I mean, it's a full-time job, that's for sure. And I think I probably underestimated the amount of work involved. But I suppose the beauty of it is that this is what I'm really passionate about. I love bags. I'm a complete geek in that sense. I love the outdoors as well. So to be able to do this every day as my job is great. Well, that's good news. Now, you said you were an outsider in the industry, or I presume you mean you were a newcomer to the industry. By the outside, I think you're probably referring to the sort of the established manufacturing base, which does tend to be designed in this country and manufactured, obviously, in the Far East. So what sort of help and support have you had to get your feet under the table, as it were, and feel comfortable with where the brand has a future in this country?
Well, it's been amazing, actually, the reception that I've received from a lot of people. I remember when I started Trakke, I did a talk at university about some of the things that had sort of inspired me that year. And I'd written about Patagonia, and I was talking about Finisterre, who are a surfing company down in Cornwall. I'd been talking about Alpkit and the great products that they make. And since I launched Trakke, I've been lucky enough to meet a lot of the people that I was talking about then. So I went to chat with the guys at Alpkit down at their workshop, and they gave me loads of great advice. I met the guys from Finisterre in Germany, and they're really on the up and are really pioneering the sort of direct sales model with online sales as well. So it was brilliant to talk to them. I was lucky enough to talk alongside Vincent from Patagonia, who has obviously been running Patagonia for a long time. And he really helped me to understand that you can build things to last, and that by building things to last, you aren't necessarily committing business suicide, So he was a brilliant guy to chat to on that day, and that was inspiring to meet him. But I've also had a lot of help from people like Mike Parsons, who obviously was Kimlite and Carrymore and OMM, things like that. He obviously has an incredibly in-depth manufacturing background, and has popped up to Glasgow on a few occasions, and we've had a lot of chats about the best way to make things and how to make things more efficiently. So I've been really lucky that there have been people out there who are willing to give up their time and knowledge to help me out, which is just fantastic.
So what did you find was the biggest change in your perception, in your approach then from after the assistance of these people? How did you change your mindset or change your practical approach to manufacturing?
Well, I think basically what I realised is that if you're going to manufacture stuff in the UK, it's going to be expensive, and therefore it's going to be expensive to sell. So I think before that I've been a bit wary of selling things at high prices, and been a bit nervous about that. But really they helped me to understand that actually it's worth it. British manufacturing is extremely good. The materials that I'm using are extremely high quality, and that it's okay to charge a lot of money for them. And for me, that sort of rang true with my idea that I wanted to build things to last, and that I wanted things to be beautiful, because if you're going to pay a lot of money for something, you want to be able to use it all the time. And you want to really have a sense of the provenance and things like that.
You're listening to The Outdoor Station, bringing you news, ideas and information about products, people and places.
I think there's certainly a lot of truth in what you say. We've certainly found the same sort of thing as well. You feel almost guilty when you look at the price tag that you need to charge for something because of the costs involved in manufacturing it. But thankfully, I think the customer base is intelligent enough and have done the research themselves to understand that actually the value is in the finishing and the skill, but also the cost of the products involved, the cost of the materials involved. It's you can't have a Rolls Royce for the price of a Mini, and I think a lot of people, thankfully, particularly in the outdoors, seem to be aware of that.
Exactly. I mean, I think that the key really is to help the customer to understand why it's so expensive. So, for example, we have visited our factories and been and taken loads of photos of the factory and where the items are made. And kind of we've done blog posts and reports about how our materials are made, because that helps the customer to understand that not only are we making the bag, but there's a group of people in the UK who are highly skilled, who are making incredible fabrics in the UK. And they've been doing so for 150, 200 years. So it's really good. I love that storytelling aspect of it, being able to tell customers that your webbing is made in a factory that's been there since 1886, that used to run on water power and things like that. I find that really exciting.
As a matter of interest, are you finding that these suppliers with that type of history and pedigree that you're talking about, are they struggling to get young people into the manufacturing industry, from their point of view in their factories?
To be honest, I couldn't say. I think generally speaking, in manufacturing in the UK, the skills are really held by the older people. You certainly, over the last few years, it's unappealing for young people to go and work in factories. And I think that's a big problem. And it's certainly a problem for us in that we need machinists with a really high level of skill. And it's quite hard to find them nowadays. But what we are trying to do is to kind of rekindle some skills by employing younger people ourselves. So we've got quite a young workshop and really training them and trying to get them to really take pride in their work and try and kind of enjoy the sort of manufacturing experience again.
The organic process of helping something and creating it right through to the end. I mean, where are you? What are you finding with staffing issues regarding? I mean, sewing is a great skill, and to do it well is actually. We know from people that ask us all the time about repairing products. It's very, very hard to find people these days who have the skills and the tenacity to be able to understand and work with the fabrics that they have presented to them. So how are you finding it getting young people into your business?
Well, we're really lucky, actually. In Glasgow, there's a college that has a course that specialises in training people to work in the garment industry. So they train people to sew and they give them all that technical knowledge and some of the sort of factory knowledge that they'll need. And so what we've been doing is sort of poaching their best students, really. So the two girls who work for us now both studied there. They came to us fresh out of college. But we've been able to sort of train them and the work they produce is just fantastic. And I think it's good for them as well because they're not in a traditional factory environment. They get to do lots of different jobs around the workshop, from pattern cutting to finishing the final product and all the stages in between. But also, our workshop isn't in the middle of an industrial estate somewhere. We're quite centrally located in the city. So, it's a nice place for them to be and it's a nice experience for them.
Yeah, I mean that's the important thing. I think working environment and people's perceptions of factory lifestyle needs to be improved and changed to get, as you say, younger people back into the workplace and in that sort of environment. As an aside, do they ever mention how their other compatriots that were at college with them, what they've gone into? Is there plenty of manufacturing jobs that are being taken by these young people?
I don't think there are a huge amount of jobs. I think a lot of students go on to try and work in the fashion industry. Certainly, one of the things that maybe has stayed in the UK is sort of small-scale sampling of products. So I think a lot of younger people maybe go into the fashion houses to do the sampling and the gold ticket products. But yeah, it's hard to say. I don't think there's a huge amount of jobs around at the moment.
Looking at your website, it does tell a lovely story, and you've obviously taken a lot of time and a pleasure in actually putting the images together. You've got a lovely sequence of images here that bring the whole story to life. And do you find that's an important part of the education process you were referring to earlier on?
Yeah, for me, it's all about storytelling. I mean, bear in mind that we sell direct to our customers, so our bags are only available online through our website. And for me, therefore, the website becomes our shop window. We have to really communicate everything that we're about on there. So, I think it's really important to tell that story and to tell the story about how we grew and about where our materials are from and how we can do it. I think that a lot of companies talk about marketing a lot, and I think that the public generally don't like to be marketed to. But what we do is we make sure that we've got a really good story to tell, and then we tell it.
Certainly, some of the additional information you've got in there does make you think about the supporting industries that are supporting you. I was looking at the factory images at the moment from the webbing visit that you did on the website.
Sure.
And it just reminds you that it's a long process to get a bag made or to get any sort of product made. And I think it's important to celebrate all the various components of the chain. You know, when you look around your particular area of interest and you sort of start spreading a bit further, are there any areas that you would like to explore that you feel is right that sits well in your portfolio?
In terms of products?
Well, products and general business direction. You know, we all start a business thinking we'll do one thing, but sometimes you get led slightly down a different path, which actually works better for you. Yeah,
well, I think that at the moment, while we're quite small, I really want to focus on doing what we do, but doing it very well. So I think we'll stick with bags for a little bit longer. I'm keen to get some kind of supplementary products into the range, smaller items that complement the brand. I think longer term, I'm desperate to make a Ventile smock. I'd fallen in love with Ventile cotton a while ago, and just would love to be able to make some garments out of that. So that's on my list for sure. But on a sort of wider level, I think since coming into the manufacturing aspect of it, I've really realised that, number one, it's important to promote manufacturing in the UK to other businesses as well, and say, to encourage other people to start doing it, because that's the only way we're going to bring it back to the UK in the longer term. But also, I think, this idea of rekindling skills that have been lost over the years. So I'm really keen to try and promote skills among young people to do more sewing and things like that. So I think in the next few years, I'd really like to focus on that as well.
I think we're probably in the cusp of history at the moment, actually, with the older generation, the traditional craftspeople, really now retiring and finishing their working life, and there's this big gap, I think, where the younger generation are missing an opportunity, financial as well as practical, to be honest. As you quite rightly say, get the British manufacturing industry up and running and flowing a little bit more, and we'll hopefully get our strength back again.
Absolutely. I think that, in the long term, I think the UK is going to become a smaller and smaller market in terms of, if you think that China owns a lot of the factories, they own a lot of the raw material to make things, and they've got, over 1 billion people living in China. So our 61 million or however many people are in the UK is a very small and relatively insignificant market. So unless we really take it into our own hands and try and do our own thing with our manufacturing, I don't think we've got a chance, really.
The Outdoors Station is a free media entertainment service dedicated to the self-powered outdoors enthusiast.
How do you feel you would take that next step? Because I can feel that you're busy. You're obviously making a great product, and it is financially balancing your particular manufacturing process at the moment. But the next stage to be bigger and have more staff and more space for the staff, and then more equipment for people to work with, and then more commitment regarding your stock and supply of materials is quite a big financial jump for any business. How do you think you're going to get there?
That's a really good question. I think it's going to take a fairly significant amount of investment. I seem to have an ever-expanding wish list of things that I'd like to do with Trakke. All of those things are going to require money. But my hope is that sort of it will be worthwhile. And by really, because, we're starting a factory. Well, if we could start a factory today, it seems silly to necessarily model it on the old factory environment. We have the benefit that there's lots of new technology available, which can make things cheaper to produce, make them better quality. So I'm hoping that when we do step into making that step, that we're going to be able to use that technology to our advantage, and really sort of make the system very efficient for us.
And presumably a part of that is obviously the investment you've made in the website. But are you finding there's an interest in the international market, in the sales and the consumers there for your products?
Yeah, it's very strange actually, because I think when I started Trakke, I was really saying, well, we started making a cycling bag, a messenger bag for cyclists, and I was really saying, well, no one's really doing this in the UK at the moment. There's a couple of people making bags here and there, but if you want to buy a messenger bag made in the UK, there isn't really an option for you at the moment. So I started making them. And I never really considered the fact that they would sell abroad. But today, I think we sell about 50% of all of the products that we sell go overseas to Asia or America, all sorts of places.
And do you get feedback from the customers? Are you sort of do you follow through at all? Have that sort of update of how the products are performing in their environment?
Yeah, we're really lucky. We have great customers. They're very keen to give us their feedback and give us new ideas. They're always sending us photos from their latest adventure, which is fantastic. I mean, there's a bag in Antarctica at the moment that's being tested by a guy who works out there. So he's putting it through its paces over there. We get photos from Japan and all over the place. And with that comes obviously lots of feedback and lots of advice about how we can make the bag better in different environments and things like that, which we always listen to that feedback. And because of the way that we're manufacturing at the moment, it's quite quick and easy for us to implement that feedback. So if a bag design requires a slight tweak, to make it a bit better, we can do that basically instantaneously.
And I think that's probably one of the strongest selling points of any UK manufactured product is the fact that you can adjust things on the fly. Yeah,
absolutely, and that's really good fun as well. It's great to see the product develop at a quick rate like that.
So, you came into, I suppose, you came into the industry. Which industry are we talking about? Are we talking about manufacturing, or are we talking about outdoor industry specifically when we say about the industry? What would you say?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I love the outdoor industry, and that's probably where my inspiration comes from. So I would probably say the outdoor industry, but I can appreciate that we really make an outdoor lifestyle product. Although, in fairness, I think most of the outdoor industry is making lifestyle products at the moment. That's how they're making their money. I think we're just maybe a bit more open about that.
Well, what I was going to ask was, you came into, as you say, the outdoor industry then, young at heart, and obviously with at age as well, from finishing college there, deciding what you were going to do and how to progress. What are your reflections on when you've actually looked at the industry and then seen some of the key players and the general mentality? Do you find that they're a little bit, how can I put this politely, dinosaurs, stuck in an older way of doing things, as you say, a traditional factory process mentality with the way they go about things? Or have you been surprised how young and refreshed the industry looks as you came into it?
Well, I think there's a lot of young brands who are doing really amazing stuff, and who are really, maybe pioneering how the whole industry will progress in the next few years. I think, in the early days, I used to look at the big companies, the big names, and think they were, dinosaurs, or not able to really, keep up, or they weren't trying hard enough to source their products or to get them manufactured in a responsible way. But I had a really interesting conversation last year with someone from Berghaus, and he was saying, the difficulty is that for me, with my small workshop and my tiny team, I'm sailing a dinghy, basically, a really nimble dinghy, and I can make a turn very quickly. But Berghaus, they're sailing an oil tanker at the moment, and for them to turn around and change the way they manufacture things, it's not something they can do overnight. So even if they'd like to, it's going to take them 15 years to implement. And I think maybe I was just a bit naive about the realities of big companies making changes like that. For example, bringing their manufacturing back to the UK. It's easy to say, but for them, it's not particularly easy to do.
Yeah, I suppose it's a very good point, particularly when you're committed to a manufacturing capacity in an overseas country, to suddenly change. Change design is one thing, because you have to fit in with the factory's manufacturing diary and process, which can be 12 months to 18 months in advance. And as you say, the actual financial penalty you might have to pay to stop using one factory and start using another one, or you have to have at least two factories running at the same time just to make sure the quality maintains the same.
Yeah, I think a lot of the big companies maybe would like to do better in different ways, but I think it's a lot harder for them, especially because their whole business model really is built around the prices that they're getting from overseas manufacture. It's quite hard to sell to retail at a price that can be accepted on the high street, while making in the UK. It's a very difficult thing to do.
What about the approach of the larger companies to technology? And you said yourself about how technology has moved on, and therefore if you were starting a factory, or a bigger factory rather than the way you are, you would actually use that technology as a way of shortcutting or improving the manufacturing process and keeping costs down or whatever. Because I can particularly remember when we came into the industry 10 years ago, obviously the internet was gathering and going great guns and really starting to be the future, and there was going to be so many pounds worth of trade done on the internet. And certainly the larger outdoor companies were holding up the white cross of doom, saying don't darken my door, and it's never going to happen, and all this sort of thing. But they've had to evolve with that now. Do you find in the last 4 or 5 years, from your approach, from where you're sitting, when you've spoken to these people, they are actually much more comfortable with the developments in technology and manufacturing?
I'll be the first to admit I'm not an expert on all the different technology that is available. But I do think that companies are using new technologies, things like 3D printing, or laser cutting, and things like this. CNC design, I think, is definitely becoming more prominent, but maybe not necessarily on a mass market high street appeal. I think companies do sort of laboratory style projects. They do one-offs and things like that to play with the technology, but it's not really being implemented on a larger scale at the moment. But I think for us as a smaller company, we're making smaller quantities as well. Technology could really be something that could help us to make really high quality, really fantastic products, but without needing as much staff as might be needed if you were doing it in a traditional way.
And talking of doing things in a traditional way, the question earlier on about taking the company from where you are now to the next level, obviously it does need a serious financial investment. I've been listening to a few things just recently where people have referred to the crowdfunding way of doing things approach, rather than going down the traditional loan and banks and business angels and that sort of thing. Is it something that you might consider as a way of moving forward your products?
Yeah, Kickstarter is, crowdsourcing and Kickstarter are fantastic, and it's always really inspiring to go on there and have a look around and see what kind of things are getting funding. I wonder, often on Kickstarter, you see people trying to get a product produced, and I think in our case, with us sort of talking about setting up maybe a larger manufacturing facility, I don't know how much public interest that would get on Kickstarter. But then again, maybe it could be really interesting to put it up on there and see what people's reaction is like, because the Made in the UK movement is certainly really gaining momentum at the moment. So more and more people are interested. It would certainly be something to consider. Yeah,
I think there's certainly, like yourself, there's certainly an increased awareness and willingness to help in a small way of different people's projects, and I'm involved in one myself. That the company has reached its target and actually overreached its target, so much so that they were able to bring a range of products to market, which is really fascinating to watch, and also feel quite proud to be part of helping them grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is another great thing about Kickstarter, is that it can really create a loyal customer base straight away, people who are really behind you and want you to succeed. And I think that's as important, for any business, is just having a load of people who really like your ideas.
Yes, well, it certainly makes you realise you've got a good idea after all. So what about yourself then? Where are we going now for the next 12 months with Trakke?
Well, I mean, we literally, our new website has just launched, and it's been great to sort of get a lot of feedback from that. And this year, we've got some projects on the go. We've got some interesting bits and bobs, some collaborations coming up. But just generally trying to increase our output so that we can make more bags. I'd like to get a duffel bag designed. A lot of people keep asking for duffel bags, and just sort of start expanding our range a little bit here and there. It would be great if I could try and find some time to sit down and design anything, but I seem to spend most of my time replying to emails and so forth. But I think just I sort of take it as it comes at the moment, and really just try and make sure that we are looking after our existing customers as well, while we're growing.
So you're obviously going through 2014 as we almost halfway through, I suppose, at the moment. Feeling fairly buoyant about the next 12 months or further.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I think a lot of things that I've been thinking about for a couple of years now, in terms of quality and in terms of the types of materials and the types of things that I'd like to be doing with Trakke have really fallen into place in the last few weeks. So I feel really confident in the product that we make, and people seem to love it. We get a lot of great feedback about the bags. So, if I could just continue doing that and continue to make people happy and continue to see bags out there all over the world being used for adventures on whatever scale that adventure might be, then that would be fantastic.
If you've taken time to check out the Trakke website, you'll see for yourself just how cool the presentation is, along with the love and the effort that goes into manufacturing the products and the detail concerned. My thanks to Alec for taking the time to chat to us, and of course we wish him all the best in the future. Maybe we'll catch up with him a year or so's time and see where he is. Now, if you do have time to drop me that line I mentioned right at the very beginning with your listening habits and any topic desires and what you'd like to see or hear more of, that would be great. info@theoutdoorstation.co.uk. So once again, folks, thanks for listening and take care out there. Bye for now.
Since 2005, over 5 million people have listened to the Outdoors Station audio podcasts, and over 1 million have watched the videos. You can subscribe to the Outdoors Station in numerous ways. Visit the website and select the link to your chosen social media network. The UK's only award-winning audio and video podcast service for the great outdoors.